Computer-generated imagery, or CGI, is an amazing tool. The work that goes into world building in cinema today is mind-blowing. I love the craft just as much as miniature work or puppetry, and there are some things that CGI have shown us over the years that we never thought possible. From giant robots fighting giant monsters, to alien creatures, to whole cities, it's an amazing special effects tool. In this list, I'll compile 10 of my favourite shots from movies which I think utilise CGI the best. Shots which sell the visuals perfectly, in my own opinion. This list is in no particular order, and I've placed some rules down. It has to be one single shot, not an entire scene. Obviously it has to contain CGI somewhere, but can also have other special effect elements at work. So without further ado, here are my 10 favourite CGI shots from films. Number 10. Optimus Prime transforming just before he fights Megatron, from Transformers. Despite taking a long time to actually transform, this shot really sells us that these Transformers are here and exist in our world. I love the low angle, how it spins around Optimus as all the mechanism comes together to create his humanoid form. It's a really ridiculously cool shot in my opinion, and I feel like it's one of those moments in the first Transformers at least that made audiences fall in love with this franchise, and that's why it's in my top 10. Number 9. The swooping shot of the riders of Rohan battling the orcs from Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. I mean, just look at it. The scale and scope of everything that's going on from this shot from Return of the King is just phenomenal. You've got miniature work going on in the background with Minas Tirith. You've got background plates of mountains, you've got smoke, and just thousands and thousands of orcs and men fighting. It's one of the most epic shots, I think, in any of the Lord of the Rings films, and well, Lord of the Rings had to make it up there, and I think a lot of people would think I would pick a shot of Gollum, but for me it was this shot that sold the scale and just the raw power of the riders of Rohan, and it's from my favourite scene in the movie, and it also contains my favourite CGI work from the Lord of the Rings films. Number 8. The Recognizer landing sequence from Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy was such a visually stunning piece of work, and it's one of my favourite movies of all time. When I was compiling this list, this was one of the first shots I thought of. My friend Ross and I watched this film not too long ago, and we were just in awe of the visuals. It was actually him who pointed out this shot, where the two recognizers in the background split off, and this one comes right into the middle of the frame and lands. You see the people on the ground, which gives us the scale of the recognizer as it all unfolds. And not only that, if you look closely, as soon as the recognizer hits the ground, a lightning bolt strikes the ocean off in the distance, and to me it's almost like just watching a painting come alive. Really amazing visual shot, and one of my favourites. Number 7. Jumping from train to train from The Lone Ranger. When I watched The Lone Ranger for the first time, I was blown away by the film. I thought it was fantastic, but it made this list for me purely because of the train sequence. If you haven't seen this movie, they have this outstanding chase sequence with two trains. I can't really say much more without spoiling it, but this shot which we're looking at here of Johnny Depp's character running along the top of the train as he judges when he can jump from one train to the other was just amazing. I had no idea that the environment in the background, all the mountains and the trees and everything was CGI. I understood that the trains were probably CGI because you couldn't really make a train, go off down the tracks on its own. But the fact that it's a blue screen of Johnny Depp as well running on top of this train, and the fact that he changes to a digital character, I think, jumping from one train to the other, it's just, it works so well. And they've painted the environment, the sort of almost sepia look to the environment just perfectly, and had to make my list as soon as I saw it. Number 6. The pullback shot right after King of the World from Titanic. Titanic is one of my favourite movies for many reasons, one of which is the special effects. And whenever I think of Titanic, the one that always jumps to mind is right after Jack Dawson has screamed, "I'm the king of the world," we have this amazing pullback shot over a miniature boat mixed with hundreds of CGI elements of water and people and smoke, and everything's at work here that's right, and it just makes one amazing shot. It also establishes the size of the ship in scale to the people, and I feel like it's one of the moments in the movie that, you know, the ship's just set sail, we're now going on this adventure, and look at the scope of this ship back in 1912. It's one of my favourite special effects shots which utilises CGI, and had to be in the list. Number 5. Otachi Surprise from Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim was just a phenomenal visual feast, and this was one of the most difficult ones to put in the list because I knew I had to choose a shot to go into this list, but which one out of, you know, hundreds and hundreds of amazing special effects shots. But I decided to pick this one where we see Gypsy Danger walking around the corner looking for Otachi, who's running amok through the city somewhere, to finally see its adversary burst through the building, smashing Gypsy into the other building, whereabouts they have a punch out. It's an amazing shot in my opinion. There's actually a behind the scenes shot which I can show you now, where you see all the plates at work here, and it really shows you just what monumental skill goes into a shot that is completely CGI in a live action movie. It's one of those shots in the movie, you know, amongst all the other CGI shots, this is the one that I always get excited about seeing because I just love the rippling glass before Otachi bursts out. I love the huge piece of debris that slowly flies past the camera. Just everything about it is perfect in my opinion. Number 4. What is in the hole from War of the Worlds? Spielberg's War of the Worlds was a real fantastic movie and a great adaptation of the book. I feel like it's really underrated. What isn't underrated though is the special effects of the movie. This shot here, I remember being in the cinema, being terrified at this point of, you know, seeing the tripod, because obviously I'd read the book, I knew what was coming, but it was this long establishing shot of nothing coming out of the hole and seeing the car burst out and smash onto a real car near stunt actors, to only see this strange ghostly looking tripod, you know, stand in the dust and rise up. I thought that's it and it's flying, but then you quickly realise that it's just one of the feet of the tripod coming out. And the lingering shot of, you know, both the cars in the shot being smashed by things flying out of the hole, I thought was genius. And it was it felt, you know, very Spielberg. The lack of music, the noises, the fact that we never really leave Tom Cruise's side. It was all from his perspective. The early morning lighting was one of the things that I really loved about this sequence. But this shot of the car when it flips up and you see the lighting glint off all the metal before it smashes down, and the road, the stark bright light coming off the concrete of the road with the CGI element in the background, you know, as it rises from the dust and we get a good glimpse of it before it smashes down. Just fantastic, and always jumps to my mind whenever I think about this film and CGI, you know, in general, because I feel like that even though it's, you know, dare I say it, minimal CGI at work here, it sells it so well. Number 3, the Juggernaut's descent from Prometheus. This is probably the shortest shot in the list. This is from Prometheus. Right after the ship Prometheus crashes into the engineer's Juggernaut ship, we see the huge explosion and whatnot. But it was this shot, and they revealed it in the trailer early on, you know, of the explosion happening and the Juggernaut unharmed falling from the sky. Now, why this makes the list, for me, yes, there's not many things to compare the CGI in this shot to say if it looks fake or not, or what, you know, whatever. But it's the fact that it's the imagery itself. When I was a kid, I loved Alien, as many of you know, and I always loved the design of the the derelict ship. And when seeing the Prometheus trailer for the first time, I never thought in a million years I would ever see this imagery on screen, let alone in cinema, of another ship like that falling from the sky with an explosion. And one of the explosion around it is, I think it just looks 100% real. It looks perfect for an explosion, and just to have this engineer ship is just almost like the icing on the cake. It's an amazing shot, just beautiful visuals all round. Prometheus was full of beautiful visuals, but this, for me, that was the single shot that I was like, this movie, despite what people think about it and all the controversy around it, this shot is amazing, and I don't think anyone would disagree. Number 2, Godzilla rises and holds the bridge, from Godzilla 2014. This shot from Godzilla 2014 was actually the reason I chose to make this video. I was watching the movie and I was thinking about how Gareth Edwards and everyone said in the production team that they were making this film to really sell it that these creatures exist in our world. Like, they had to sell that, Godzilla really does exist, and how do you do that with visuals? And it was this shot of Godzilla rising next to the bridge in the rain, and the scale of his size as he roars and makes his grand entrance outside San Francisco. I really got the scale of his character in particular. There were some previous shots in the film of the Mutos, the other monsters, and their scale, and obviously there were other previous shots of Godzilla's scale to sell it, but it was this one, the gloomy look to it, and the rain, and just the way he rises up, and the fact that his huge hand comes down and just grabs the bridge, doesn't break it, but he just sort of holds on to it, and it was just mind-blowing to see. And number 1, the raptor after Lex from Jurassic Park. I always tell friends about this whenever we watch the film or whatever. I always say, like, whenever we talk about the special effects of Jurassic Park, I always bring up that the shot of Lex falling down not only is an amazing CGI shot because it had a CGI dinosaur in it, and it's something we never thought we'd see before, but obviously the stunt girl falls down and she looks up, and they had to CGI Ariana's face over this stunt woman, and obviously if you go through it frame by frame it looks quite funny, but they sell the visual of that really well. Coupled with that, you've got the dinosaur below, and to me, out of all the amazing special effects shots in Jurassic Park, it's this raptor that falls down and gets back up and then jumps up to get Lex. That it's a really strange angle to see this CGI dinosaur at, and to have it fall down and hit the floor. There's so much going on, like the weight of the dinosaur hitting the floor, the fact that it sort of lies there for a little bit, almost knocked out, and then regains its consciousness quickly to only realize that its meal is dangling right above it. And this was the first time for me as a kid seeing how a dinosaur gets up from falling over or falling down, and using the weight of its leg to sort of bring itself back up. I love this shot, and not only does it go from standing in the background, or should I say on the ground, but it jumps right into frame to try and get her leg, and we get a quick glimpse of all the detail on its nose and everything. To me, this is one of my favourite shots from Jurassic Park, but it is my favourite sort of use of the CGI. It's just the fact that the raptor falls into light is one of the first moments in the film that we see the CGI raptor in full, almost full light, and you see all the coloration on it for a split second, and yeah, just an amazing work of CGI. There you go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the list. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what your favourite CGI shots are from movies.